All right. So far we learned how to declare data, right, through identifiers, right? So we wrote a program where we added two numbers, and those numbers were integer types, and then we store their results into another number, which was another integer type, right? And then we basically uh, got the output using cout, right? So basically, we wrote a program which was adding two integer numbers and storing the result into another integer number, right? So we declare identifiers for those three numbers, right? Okay. So one problem that we saw there, the values that we were assigning to the first two numbers, they were fixed, right? And they were hard coded inside the program, right? So now let's modify our program so that the numbers, the first two numbers, they can be supplied by the user, and then we get those two numbers, and then we store the results into the variable, right? So how do we do that, right? So to get numbers from user, or to get data from user, we will use a feature from C++ program, which is called cin, right? So it's like cout, which is used for displaying the output. Cin will be used to get the input from the user through the keyboard, right? Okay. So now let's write a program which will add two numbers, right? Those numbers will be supplied by the user, and then we'll store the result into another number. Let's say the name of the another number is total, right? So how do we do that? Okay. So let's say we can put a comment here. We can say, let's say, uh, this program will give a demo for cin. Okay. Right. So now here we have this basic C++ program, which is empty C++ program, right? And we have added hash include iostream using namespace std semicolon for including cin and cout, right, from the iostream library, right? So now let's say we have to write this program which will add two numbers and store the result into another number, right? And all of these numbers are of integer type, right? So how do we do that? So we have to provide the type of the numbers, right? Okay. So and let's say all of them are integers, right? So we'll write int, and in one line we can declare all these variables. Okay. We can also declare them into separate lines, right? For example, int num1 semicolon, then next line int num2 semicolon, then next line int total semicolon. But here, since all of them are of same type, we can also declare them in one line, and each item, each number will be separated by a comma, right? So here, let's say I num1, num2, and okay. So here, these comma separated values that you're looking at, num1, num2, and total, these are three numbers, and they all are of integer type, okay? Right. So now here, what we want that the values for num1 and num2 should be supplied by the user, right? So user can one time supply in 50 for num1, 30 for num2. Next time when the user will run this program, the user may give 55 for num1 and 35 for num2, right? So how do we do that? So to get the input from a user, we will use cin, just like cout for displaying the output into the console. Cin is used to get the input from the user, okay? So how do we use that? Let's say we want to get a value for num1 from the user. How do we do that? So we'll let cin. So you can think of cin as keyboard, right? And then you basically, whatever value the user will type from the keyboard, that will be passed to num1. Okay. So here you see that you can think of cin as a device. You get the value from that device, and that value will be passed to this number, right? Okay. So we have to get value for num1 and num2, right? So we will also write cin num, right? Okay. And then now what will happen that when the user will run this program, So user will type a number, user will press enter, right? So that number will be assigned to num1. Then the user will type another number, and that number will be assigned to num2, right? Okay. So you will have this, right? Now num1 and num2 will have value. They will have values from user, right? And then you can basically add them, right? Just like you did previously in the previous example. Right. So now the total will have the sum of num1 and num2, and these num1 and num2, they are passed from the user using cin, right? So easy, right? Okay. So now you want to display the output of these two numbers sum. How do we do that? We can use the previous code, cout. We can write sum of, right? So sum of will be displayed as is, right? And then we can write num1. So then num1 value will be taken, then space and space, then space and space be displayed. And then we have num2 will be displayed. Then this will be displayed. And then we will have the total. And then we will have n. So this will display sum of whatever value is assigned to num1, space and space, whatever value will be assigned to num2, space is space, and then the sum of total. Okay, so let's run this program. Okay, so now if you run this program, so you see that your console is empty and the cursor is blinking here, right? So it means that it is waiting for the user input for this line number 11. Okay, see in num1, right? Okay, so let's say I type here 60. Okay, and then I press. So 60 will be assigned to num1. So you took basically 60 from the keyboard, and that 60 is passed to num1. Now the cursor is blinking again. So it is waiting for your input for line number 12, which is C in num2. Let's say I write here 54, right? So now if I press 54, if I press enter, this 54 will be assigned to num2. So now num1 will have 60, num2 will have 54. So then line number 14, 60 plus 54 will be added, and the result will be assigned to total, right? And your program will display for line number 16, your program will display sum of 60 and 54 is 114. Okay, let's see that. Right? You see that this is the output, right? Okay. So now if I'll run this program next time and with different values, it will give you different result, right? So let's say here this time, let's say I put 120. So enter. So 120 will be assigned to num1 for line number 11. And let's say I put basically 80. That 80 will be assigned to num2 for line number 12. Right? And then, yeah, I press so some, right? So you see that now user can supply input for num1 and num2, and then you can add them in your program, and then you can display the result, right? So here you can also write, so here we have written like C in num1 and C in num2, right? We can also write them in a single line, C in, then we can write this, insertion symbol, then we can write num1, and then we can write basically, we can write this whole thing like that. Right. Okay. So we can also write in one line. Okay. So then this in one C in, you have to write the numbers like that: 60 space 54, and then press enter, right? So the 60 will be assigned to num1 and 54 will be assigned to num2, right? So you can also write like that. Okay? So now here, one thing that you have observed, right? So this program, when you will run, let's say you have written this program, you know how it will work, right? Okay. But let's say if you have written this program and I am using this program, okay? So now when I'll run this program, I will see that the cursor is blinking. Since I don't have the source code of this program, I will not guess that what this program is asking from me. Maybe this is hang, right? Okay, so how do we make the program user friendly? How do we let the user that what we are basically asking from the user, right? So how do we do that, right? So let's first finish this program. Let's okay, so that's it. So how do make this program interactive, right? So how do we tell the user that enter number 1, then we'll ask the user to enter number 2, and then the program will display the result, right? So how to make this program interactive, right? So here, to make the program interactive, before asking the user to enter the value for num1, we can display a message. So here we can write this: cout enter num1. Okay, so now here, when this code will be executed, right? So it will display enter num1 and a space, and then this code will be executed, right? So there your cursor will blink, then you will supply the number, right? Similarly, and out enter num2, right? And now, okay, so we have grouped them together. So this part will be, so it will display enter num1 colon space, and then you will type the num1. And then once that is done, this will display enter num2 colon space, and then you'll type num2, and then you will get the result. Okay. So now this program is more user-friendly, right? So here, when the user will run this program, so user will know that what the program is expecting from the user. Let's say it is asking enter num1. Now we'll enter 75. Now, when we press enter, this 75 will be assigned to num1. Then it is prompting us enter num2. Let's say we have enter 35, which will basically be assigned to num2 in line number 15, actually, right? So now, right? So now this program is more user-friendly, right? So now we have learned that how to take input from the user and how to make our program interactive, right? Okay. Let's proceed further.